Welcome back to Hooked Up Video. In this episode we're heading to Mallacoota to test out Shimano's new Bantam range of lures on the local bream and flathead that are abundant in this East Gippsland fishing mecca. The new range consists of 5 lures and we'll be focusing on 3 of them. The Pavlo shad, a great little crash diver. The BT bait, a compact swim bait that will open the swim bait market to a heap of new targets. And the BT force, a big weight bait that only has one real target in this system, and that's a flathead. Mallacoota is a big estuary system and we've got a day and a half to test these lures and land some good fish. I've brought along Hooked Up contributor Sammy Lees, who's a keen bream angler, to handle that side of the fishing, while I try and keep my focus on trying to land a big dusky on top water using the BT force. We're also armed with a heap of Shimano's squidgy BioTough, as heading to any estuary without soft plastics is just plain crazy.
There was so many bream just stacked up the back there, but I just couldn't get to them.
You can see them?
Because of the weed.
You can see them?
Yeah, they're all just like in line with that end of the tree. But they should be along here if they're there. Go on.
There we go. Where'd you get that on, Sammy?
I think that was on the, what's the BT bait called?
BT bait. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
It's the new little swim bait.
Yeah, it's a new little swim bait from Shimano. It's like this is like a cleary.
Is that a big fish or have you just got loose drag?
No, I've gone full Kosta and I'm sort of Captain Loose Drag. But it's not a bad fish.
Potentially one of the first people to catch a fish on this lure.
He's actually pretty nice.
Yeah. How are you working it, Sammy, this new BT bait?
Sort of just really short, erratic twitches and then letting it pause.
Yep. So that's it there. It's a 3-jointed lure with a soft plastic tail at the back. You're casting into pretty shallow water there,
Yeah, sort of about 1.5 foot, 2 foot of water.
Yep. So you can work it nice and shallow. It's a great little size. That was the one that from the start we kind of called it, I think. We said that's going to be the one that's going to get a lot of fish. Very cool lure and a nice healthy black bream.
After that first bream, things went quiet, very quiet. There was no wind, and while we could still see fish sitting on the edges, our lures were spooking them more so than catching them. We moved further down into the bottom lake where I worked a large sand flat for a big flathead using both the BT force and the Pavlo shad, while Sam fished the deeper water using soft plastics. I caught a bunch of smaller fish on the Pavlo shad, and Sam was doing well on the bream in deeper water. It let us know where the fish were, but we wanted shallow water bream on edges and big flathead. We spent the rest of the day learning how to best work these brand new lures and discussing how we would approach day 2. There was a lot of wind and a bit of rain coming, which we thought would get the fish fired up, but would also make positioning the boat difficult.
All right, morning of day 2. We've just come up working this flat. Sam's hooked up. What lure are you throwing, Sam?
I'm throwing that BT bait again.
Oh, the BT bait, the little swim bait?
Yeah, in the chartreuse colour.
And you've had, it looks like a tailor I'm calling it for. Or is that a bream?
I think it's a little bream.
That's a bream. Bream on swim baits.
It's a good little fish, fighting hard in the current.
And I think that's the really cool thing about this BT bait as opposed to a lot of swim baits on the market, that it's a size that's applicable to our southern estuaries. It does a good job of imitating, you know, the kind of prey that fish are feeding on here, little mullet, little tailor.
It's a really good low light colour too, that chartreuse colour. Got that good glow.
Yeah, it's a cool lure and it comes with, you get 3 spare tails in the pack. So it's got a lot of action because, I'll pull it out and show you. It's got a heap of action because you've got your double joint here, so it's a true swim bait, but then you've also got, you know, what you can call your 3rd joint from the tail. It's a really tough material, stretchy material in the tail. Doesn't pop off easy. I don't think we've had any tails pop off, have we, Sam? No. In the time we've been using them. And, you know, awesome hookup with the trebles, and it's a good fish. Have you caught many bream on, you're a pretty active bream fisherman, have you caught many on swim baits before?
Not really. I've caught a few on little glide baits, but not consistently.
Yep.
But, you know, caught a few fish now over the last 2 days.
Yeah, it's a pretty consistent.
On different colours too. So yep. I think that says a little bit.
We kind of called it as the lure that had the strongest appeal for this style of fishing, didn't we?
Oh, without a doubt. There's so much there's so many different species you can catch on little swim baits, whether it's little trevally or flatties, bream, perch, you know.
Sammy's hooked up again on the BT bait on this flat. I've got the camera away because we're getting intermittent rain coming through, and as you can probably hear, there's a bit of wind. What are you calling this one for, Sam? It took a pretty good run at the start there.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be a tailor, could be a bream, could be a flatty. I'm not sure. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool eat.
It's the fun thing about those kinds of lures is the visual aspect, isn't there?
Yeah, oh for sure. Especially when you're fishing shallow water, which is, I suppose, what I imagine this lure is designed for.
But it does sink, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's a bream, yep. It's a good bream.
Some don't fish at all.
No. Yellowfin.
Yeah.
As I was saying yesterday, fight that little bit harder. And that's a solid fish. And again, that same picture perfect hookup of, you know, the rear treble nicely lodged in the mouth. You get that second treble in the side of the head there.
So I was just like twitching along the surface like a walk the dog sort of style lure.
Yep.
And then this thing like just bow waking over it in sort of like 2 foot of water. And
Rad.
I paused it and saw him turn and eat it. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I just hooked up here on this flat on the new Pavlo shad. I hooked up to a bream and it spat the hooks, and then I was pausing it there while I was licking my wounds, and whatever this is ate it, but it could be a bream.
No, it's a bream.
We look like idiots.
He came back for it. Sign of a good lure.
It's a good one too. On spot lock, I reckon.
Yep.
So we don't drift in too much.
Yep.
It's another good yellow. He's a good fish. So just landed this unreal yellowfin on the new Pavlo shad. I think that's the 52mm version. You have to pardon me, I don't know the colour, but yeah, so that silver colour looks like that, you know, that baitfish imitation. And I was calling it for a tailor because I hooked up initially and he spat the hooks, and he must have come back and had a good crack at it when I was just sitting there on the pause. But yeah, obviously that's a sign of a good lure if they're coming back for it, and obviously suspends quite well and it's got quite a nice action. So yeah, that's probably like a 42 centimetre yellowfin. Beautiful fish.
As predicted, the wind started to get too intense to be able to get any sort of decent drift going. It was pushing us onto the flat rather than along it, and we hadn't seen any signs all morning of a decent flathead. We hadn't spooked any, and it's like they didn't exist. So we made the call to head into the top lake to try and escape what was now a 20-knot wind and try and catch that big dusky I'd been chasing. Sam could not stop catching bream on the BT bait, and this little swim bait started to exceed our expectations and really showed how keen bream are to hit a 100mm swim bait.
Just another nice bream on the BT bait again. I'm trying to target flatties, but can't seem to stay away from these brimbos. Just come off a snag there and he absolutely inhaled it. Thanks for the net. Oh, that nice stick in the rod.
Sam kept catching bream on the BT bait while I was slugging away with the big BT force. Fishing big baits for big fish can start to get hard, both physically and mentally. You need to decide as an angler if it's worth it. Sometimes it can happen in the first 5 minutes, but most of the time you need to work for it. The sun started to set behind the hills. We were a long way from the ramp, but the wind backed off a little, so we raced as fast as we could back to the flat at the bottom lake where we'd fished that morning. I started to fear the trip would be over without nailing that big dusky, then just as it was last light.
Oh yeah, we got a big fish on here on the BT force. I was just being a negative Nelly about where we were fishing. I reckon this is a flatty. I reckon it's a big flathead. It could be Taylor. It was a big splash, a big hit on a big bait.
I reckon it's a big flatty for sure.
Are you calling it flatty, Sam? There was a lot of splashing and thrashing. Get that net ready, my man. Yeah, it's got head shakes like a croc. We're up in the shallows on the flat. Craig, I need to come down here towards you, mate. Yeah, it's a big flathead, a real big one. Mate, I need to get up on the rear here. I've just sighted him. Oh yeah. It's a good fish. I need this rod move, Sam. Have you hit spot lock?
No.
Hit spot lock so the boat's not drifting anywhere silly.
I was just turning back into it.
Oh, he's taking some runs. I think I've done over 1,000 casts over 2 days for this fish.
Big fish, man.
Have you hit spot lock?
Yeah.
It's a big fish. This is the time where you lose these fish.
Oh, look at it spat
He's
out.
vomiting up all sorts of stuff. Oh, he's not ready yet. He's not ready yet. That's a big fish. All right. All right, I'm just going to edge him over. It's not the right net for it, we know that, but now mate, net him. Oh, shit. Pardon my language.
Mate. That's a big one.
That is a big fish.
Nice work.
Well done. I'm a little bit speechless. I reckon that we probably spent I've spent 2 days casting for this fish and certainly spent the last 5-6 hours just endlessly casting for it. Girl, easy. I'll get the hooks out of you. There we go, just in the bottom of the gill plate there. We're going to put this big girl back. We just got a few picks. As you can see, support in the belly, not hanging her by the jaw. Get her back in the water. Come on. Oh, she's off. So there you can see, awesome little wake bait, and that did the trick. The great thing about it is it's not going to get snagged up when you work in these shallow areas over the weed patches. And that definitely happened on the pause because I stopped to speak and then all of a sudden there was just a huge commotion, the way it just whacked it so hard and massive head shakes. It just sat in there nicely, the hooks held up really well and we nailed it. So that's it, thanks heaps for watching. We've learnt a lot this trip. One is, come in here mate, one is obviously swim baits on bream work really well.
Yep.
You absolutely killed it on the BT bait.
Yeah.
And the Pavlo shads were great as well. And I think that this is just a kind of fishery aiming for these big flathead where you've just got to grind it out and keep casting.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I haven't even missed an opportunity at one over the last 2 days. We haven't had a look in.
A boil, we didn't spook anything, we didn't see lies. It was just, you just got to grind it out, but it's worth it to get a fish like that and that adrenaline rush.
That was a cracker.
It was awesome. It was awesome. It was what we were after. And you know, you don't always get 2 or 3 of those in a trip, and sometimes you get none. And we'll get into that point where we thought we're going to go home without one. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. We will see you on the next episode. Don't forget to pick up Hooked Up magazine at your local tackle store, or read it online, or jump on our website. Thanks to Craig, our cameraman. He's been sitting there for a long time while we cast for nothing, and we finally got it done at the last minute.